Hi, kids.
I could use some deodorant.
Oh, I was just going to say, funny you mentioned that. I'm glad we're not actually in the same room.
It's warm today.
And I don't dare turn a fan on when we're doing this because it would sound like a...
Like a plane taking off.
I'm recording from a bomber. Obama. So, this is like episode 1, I guess, really.
Yeah, I think we were calling that a 0 or beta test episode.
Okay, yeah, the pilot. It was
yeah. So
speaking
this
of planes,
is episode 1.
Okay, that was episode 0. So if you haven't heard episode 0 first and you're listening to this, I think you're going to really. I don't know if you're going to know what's going on. This is episodic. Not really.
Okay, this is where you insert the previously on... Okay, we don't have a name yet.
Wrong. You're listening to Time to Lean and Here's a Song. John and Phil talk for a while, have a couple of beverages, and then write a song. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleepy Time Lemonade. And now back to the show, already in progress.
Okay, so old business.
Yeah, there's always old business.
So I'm back in the kitchen again tonight because...
Speaking of that, let's talk about... We actually have some comments. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in since people, I think it was several, listened to episode 0 and had something to say about it. So,
yeah,
Phil,
and
would you like to share the first comment?
Somewhat friendly. So speaking of kitchens, Paul S. From Rapid City, South Dakota, says, easily the most entertaining podcast recorded in a kitchen drinking Cutty Sark. Bravo.
A lot of qualifications there, but
yeah,
I'll take what I can get.
I think on iTunes, this same person said on a kitchen counter. But I think he meant at a kitchen counter because you're not on the counter, right?
I'm sitting at it.
At.
Yeah.
But he's in English, so maybe in England he's an expat. But so maybe he used to be Pat ass. No. So maybe in England they say you're on the counter if you're at it. Do you think? And they spell it with a U?
Yeah, they spell it with a U. It's in the boot with your trainers. This will get him to stop listening.
Wait, we lost a listener.
Oh, we're 50% of our audience just stopped.
And we don't know we don't know if people listened all the way through, but at least he listened to some of it.
Okay, so to address this particular comment, thank you. It's definitely great that he listened far enough in that he was able to kind of summarize what the episode was like.
I think that, yeah, well, that was a good summary.
Yeah. So thank you.
Except I wasn't drinking Cutty Sark. He's just only talking about you. Maybe he didn't hear my track.
True.
That would have been weird to listen to us individually.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I every time I edit the podcast, I have to listen to individual tracks. And when the other person's talking, you hear this.
Well, when I do the edits, you've already put them synced together. So so you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, unless you have something to add.
No, we better not.
Okay.
But thank you, Paul.
Keep on trucking.
Because we've got a little convoy rocking through the night.
Yeah, and feel free to comment again more.
Yeah, and of course, as you pointed out, I think since it's on iTunes, you can leave a review.
Right. So I think he also left a review. But so we basically got 2 for the price of 1 out of Paul there.
That's above and beyond. Thank you.
I give you an outstanding on your performance review, Paul.
Exceeds expectations.
God. I think all of our commenters exceeded my expectations.
I exceed my own. What can I say?
I have, I don't know. I'm kind of a bare minimum guy sometimes. Mm-hmm. Speaking of bears, no, we didn't have any comments from bears. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to see if you wanted to read the next one.
Oh, well, you can.
Is there one?
Time for more lemonade.
The next comment was from Heather K.
Okay.
And I don't know where Heather is from.
I don't think I know who she is, actually. So
You don't know who she is or where?
Right.
Both?
This is via Facebook.
Yes.
Okay,
Now,
go ahead and read.
Phil, you sound strangely like Louis Anderson. Please explain. Okay, you take this one, John. No.
I that was a surprise to me. I don't think you sound like Louis Anderson.
Heather's
Louis
Heather's
C.K.
on drugs.
Anderson. No.
Shaka Khan. Heather's on drugs, you know.
Yeah, I didn't think you had that nasal.
No.
Maybe it's the Midwest Minnesota accent thing.
To me, I sound very nasal. There, I'll edit that in.
Literally.
It's allergy season, folks.
Okay.
No, but I don't know. To me, I sound very nasal. But yeah, Louis Anderson, he's funny though.
Yeah, I
He's a
don't
funny
think that's
guy.
it's not a dig.
No. I dig your comment, Heather. I think she's from the Twin Cities area. But Heather, I did go to high school with her. I know who that is.
Oh, okay. Another Rapid City connection.
Yes. Unfortunately, I think maybe all of our commenters are
actually.
are commenters.
Our mutual friend Andy made comments not on Facebook, but directly to us via email, and I think he had some good feedback for us as well. That was mostly of this was surprisingly fun. That's a common theme. It's surprisingly good.
Surprisingly tolerable.
I kind of thought this would suck, and it doesn't.
So basically, we need to keep the expectations really low. It
doesn't suck.
I guess to Heather's point, I have been in Minnesota quite a while, so I suppose she said something about the long O's, and I don't know. Anyway.
I'm sure we all sound that way, but we don't think we do. Yeah, but thank you everybody who listened and who might be listening to this, and send us some more questions, comments, feedback,
and lemonade.
And we'll probably waste part of the time on the next show talking about it too.
Well, we have a couple more. Maybe I don't know.
Oh, please do. Yes.
We don't want to spend the whole episode talking about what people said about the other one, though. Well, okay. So Aaron C., who I think lives in Texas, says, "Oh my God, the flashbacks! You're going to have some reoccurring appearances by Sean and Rob. Evidently, or I don't know why or how, but they listened to our, I'm guessing, our tape recordings when we were in high school.
Seems pretty obvious, yes.
Yeah, and another person that was affiliated. All these people are related.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Friends and family.
Ask about our friends and family discount. Same price.
Maybe we'll get some comments from people we don't know personally.
Those will be the really good ones.
Yeah, and we won't read those.
And no. just as a thank you, Aaron, again for listening. And yes, this probably does remind many people of our halcyon days of and I think we're going to get into that subject of those old recordings.
Yeah,
I don't know if that'll be tonight, but it may be. It's possible.
But I think there was some good stuff back then, and as Loudon Wainwright says, kiss the past ass. So maybe that's what we'll. I think it's okay to do that sometimes. I think at least 40%
of this show will be that.
Okay, so John and I have known each other for, I think, 130 years.
Yeah, at least.
Right? Okay. A long time. We've been friends. Okay, one more comment.
One more comment, and then we'll move on to beverages.
We didn't start with beverages. We're breaking the format. So Eileen MK says, Mark listened to your podcast last night. Got a chuckle.
It's more family. That's Florida. We've gotten to many parts of the country.
We got some from the South. Oh, yeah. Florida. I don't know. Florida is its own thing, really.
It's kind of its own country.
Jimmy Buffett land. No, it's not just that, of course, but right. Disney.
Disney, yeah, of course.
Jimmy Buffett, is he in Disney World? Did they have the Jimmy Buffett land ride?
I don't think so. They gotta have a low class.
I blew up my flip flop on the Jimmy Buffett ride. No. Yeah. Well. Okay. So Mark, thank you. Or Mark
Thank
and
you.
Eileen.
I'm glad a chuckle was had.
Yeah, but only one.
Well,
We'll take what
he
we
was
get.
crying the rest of the time. I don't know.
Well, I'm crying on the inside.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to close out of that.
Okay,
Well,
we're done. We're done.
Thanks,
with
everybody.
Follow up.
I'm high on lemonade.
Oh my God, that was 20 minutes. Was it? No, I don't know. I'm not keeping track.
No, not quite.
I wish somebody would help me keep track of how many lemonades I've had.
What are you drinking, John?
So tonight I am drinking. I don't have any scotch at home, which is my dad would.
That
not be
seems
pleased.
weird.
Eric S. from Madison, Wisconsin, like the voiceovers, but nobody cares.
Are you okay?
I'm just behind on my shopping.
You don't have any scotch at your house at all?
No, I have no scotch in my house. I'm
Oh,
overdue.
John.
I finished it all.
Okay. You're waiting for payday.
Or get off my ass and go to the liquor store day.
Doesn't that seem strange, though, the idea of a liquor store delivering?
Yeah.
I mean, what point have you gotten to in your life when
Little
you...
Sally, would you answer the door and get my booze?
And then make me a drink. Anyway, okay, what are you drinking?
Okay, so tonight I am drinking High West Double Rye.
Oh, High West.
Yeah.
Now, they're all blends, right?
Yeah, since I went into great detail about Cuddy Sarkaball things last time, I'll do a abbreviated version of that tonight. So High West is this outfit in Utah.
Why did I think they were in Montana?
I don't know.
Well, it's
No,
a different high.
They're
that's a different-
definitely Utah.
That's a higher West.
High West, to the best of my knowledge, is one of these companies that buys lots of, say, large quantities of bourbon, and rye and other kinds of stuff, and they custom blend them.
Are they all from the Midwest area, you think?
Well, most of the bourbon and rye is from, Kentucky, or there's this really big one in Indiana that makes a lot of the rye. I think Templeton's is made by them. They just sell it in bulk to these smaller outfits that bottle it.
Remember when we couldn't get rye?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, there was one. There was old Voldemort.
Let me finish with High West, and we'll talk about rye for just a second.
Oh, okay.
So, anyway, the interesting thing about High West is, again, they used what, if you read a lot of whiskey blogs, are called sourced whiskeys. So, in other words, they don't distill them. So they don't own the stills, and they don't do all the mash bills and all that stuff. And they just mix it all together and bottle it. And that's kind of what, and I've heard maybe they make some of their own stuff, but generally they're known as a bottler. So,
okay.
This particular one,
which isn't uncommon in Scotch
no, in
either.
fact, it's not. It's definitely in Scotch, but in bourbon and other American whiskeys, it's pretty common that companies will start up and buy whiskey and then either age it further in some other kind of barrels to give it a different flavor. Anyway, double rye is basically is their cheaper rye. They have one that's really expensive called Rendezvous.
Yeah.
Which I think you've had.
They're all good.
Yeah, they are good. And this one, it's a combination of a really young rye, like maybe a 3-year aged, and a 10-year, I think. It's so they mix them together, and I think it's really good. It's pretty reasonably priced.
I don't understand. I mean, the blending thing, I don't understand distilling in general, because they try to get a consistent flavor and smell and everything. Mm-hmm. And that to me is just really fascinating that they can do that with all the different barrels and whatever. But then to blend stuff and then try to
I think
get
there's an
that
art
just
to
right.
it.
To get that just right.
Well, if you think about it, and again, we can get really into the weeds on this, but especially again, a lot of this was done in Scotland, but most of the time in the olden days, most Scotch that people bought was blended Scotch, and what that means is that, and that's shorthand usually for cheap, but what that means is that some company buys a whole bunch of single malt scotches, so they're from a single distillery, and they're malt whiskey, and then they mix it all together with some grain whiskey or something cheap to dilute it, so they don't have to buy as much expensive good Scotch.
Right.
And they mix it all together. Now, the way that it's
but High
interesting.
West isn't doing that.
No, but it's on a smaller scale. But the thing
Yeah.
about, like, if you've heard of, say, Johnny Walker, for example, the thing that's interesting about them is that they will blend together a lot of different whiskeys, and it always tastes the same. They have a certain flavor they're trying to get.
Well, I know that, but I don't understand how they do that.
Well, they have a ratio of, and usually with, and now then again, having said that, Johnny Walker Black, from reading a lot of expert opinion, Johnny Walker Black doesn't taste the same now as it did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It
Well,
does
okay.
change because whiskeys naturally change. The grains are different. The barrels they're aged in are different, all that stuff. And so
climate change.
But they try and get a consistency that it's kind of amazing that they can do it. But I think they have these people that are very good at matching these different kinds of whiskeys to make them combine well.
But also in huge amounts.
Yeah, they're
know?
in huge vats.
Because even when I'm making like a mixed drink, you know, you could measure it out. I don't like to do that, but you get the ratios, and you follow. I don't like to follow recipes, but the first time I do the recipe just right, you know, the way it says. But then later on, I'm like, I need less simple syrup, or I don't, because I don't like it quite so sweet. So you tweak it. But even that, I mean, just one drink is kind of, you know, you might take 3 or 4 drinks to get it the way you like it, and then you're schnookered.
Yeah, and then it doesn't matter because you can't taste anymore.
Well, yeah, because maybe if you get it right, you don't really, maybe you don't know, you don't care. But to do barrels of this, I don't know. There is an art to that.
I think there's an art and there's some science involved.
Now, science. Did you know that the Centers for Art and the Science are very close to each other in the brain?
What?
And also sex and violence, but that has nothing to do with this
The logic
podcast.
of violence is showing. Let me finish up the booze part real quick. So
Well,
anyway,
I need
High
another
West,
beverage already.
High West is good. It can be a little overpriced.
It is. What,
They make
what did
one-
you, what
Go ahead.
Sorry. What did you get me when I stood up for you?
Oh yeah, I bought
when you got married again.
I got you a bottle of Rendezvous Rye. That's the good
Oh.
rye.
Yeah. No. Gosh, that was good.
It's good. They make one that I enjoy every so often called Campfire. Have you had that one?
I never have bought. I've never gotten a got a whole bottle of that, but I think I've tried it. It's just a little smokier, so it's like is it something with the barrel?
No, so so what they do is it's bourbon, rye, and peated Scotch whiskey.
Oh, right.
They mix them all together, so it has a good smoke.
What the heck? Isn't that some kind of
it's also pretty good.
bastardization of whiskey?
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, but
You can't
I
mix
admire
Scotch
them.
and bourbon.
And some of their combos I have not thought of were as good. They had this one called Yippee Ki-Yay, which has a great. Their bottles are great looking. They have these really good artwork, and
Oh no,
they're very attractive. And this one,
I love all of it.
This one is basically they take whatever's in double rye, so the stuff I'm drinking, but then they pour it into some barrels that used to have, I think it might be port wine or some sweet wine.
Oh yeah,
And then they age it longer that, and I did try it. It's it tastes good, but it's too sweet. And you know the best way I had it was that I basically dumped half the pour of double rye and half of the CPKA, and that made it taste better.
So you made your own blend.
I blended my own, and sometimes you can take regular, like a basic Scotch, like even that Cuddy I was drinking last time, and you can pour just a splash of like a Lafroig or some super peaty, smoky Scotch in it.
See, now
that tastes good too.
I've never thought of that. Even though I mix drinks, for cocktails,
You
but I
should
never
experiment.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's good. So anyway, that's what I'm drinking, having it on ice, which I often like to do, even though it's not the purest way to drink. But
Now adding a little water can open it up. But now you also sent me an article about I guess it was a review or something of the whole adding like basically half water.
Oh, that was that guy was talking about the practice known as Scotch and water.
Yeah.
Or Scotch and soda, same difference. And that was more like you take some cheap blended Scotch, like Basic Cuddy or Red Label or something like that, and it's half and half.
Yeah, which sounds so strange.
It's one of those things. Again, the article, which actually has some good anecdotes in it, that these old figures like Winston Churchill or Humphrey Bogart, people like that, they would drink that all the time. Instead of like probably instead of water,
instead of the local water,
and well that was the anecdote that they were on location in Africa or something, and he said he and John Huston, the director, were the only two that didn't get sick because
they weren't drinking the water.
They didn't drink the water. They had Scotch and water and canned beans or something.
They only ate canned beans,
and that's all they had the whole time. And they said that. I think the comment was the mosquitoes just bounced right off us.
Good news, the lemonade is worn off.
So, see, he was in a boat all that time with Katharine Hepburn, and he'd eaten a bunch of beans.
See, that explains a lot of the movie.
Oh, that's why Katharine Hepburn got sick.
Beans, the magical fruit.
What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I need another one.
It's at this point in the story where Phil goes to get another beverage, and John is listening to Chris Matthews and his hardballs.
I'm back.
Oh, hi.
What was
We're back.
Was the Mrs. giving you funny looks?
Oh, no, we're cutting that out. No, she's still working.
I meant looks, not licks.
Yeah, the cat walked by and gave me a dirty look because he wants to be fed. But
no, you know what? I get in ruts. Phases. Maybe I won't say ruts. I'm just drinking a gimlet again.
Why don't you tell the listeners what a gimlet is?
I may be wrong, but basically I have gin, lime juice, and soda.
Oh yeah.
I probably put more. I'm guessing I put a little more lime juice in than generally called for. But I'm not going to get scurvy. And I think I was drinking that last time. Although I did get a bottle of Oak Heart, not Oak Art. Genuine spiced rum
spiced rum
because
before I was in
before I was into gimlets, I was into these kind of Hemingway daiquiris, kind of rum.
Yes,
and
like
simple,
you had on your Florida vacation.
Right, simple syrup and lime juice again, of course. So Oak Heart.
Okay, what Oak Heart is a spiced rum?
Yeah, it's actually Bacardi, and I didn't realize that when I bought it.
Okay, well, they own a lot of stuff.
I got a good price on it, but it's it's a hint of smoke from charcoal, American oak. It's got the oak. You got to put everything in oak now. Beers, whiskeys, of course. Everything's in Scotch. I didn't realize how important oak was to whiskey and rum and beer now and everything.
It seems to be the one type of wood that's really good for that.
What woods?
Did you know there are a lot of different varieties of oak wood?
Well, okay, so at the University of Minnesota, they were just doing research on different kinds of oak trees. But what do you mean? Well,
that there are a lot of different kinds of oak.
I didn't know that.
The oak they use to make like barrels in Europe are different than the ones they do here.
But don't they ship them from here?
Different kind of tree. Well, they some of them use American barrels, but there are also European barrels that are made from different kinds of oak.
They don't have any trees left in Europe, I thought. No?
You might have to investigate that.
I'm going to Google right now.
Ask Paul S.
No,
should.
they must have a tree somewhere.
I think that I shall never see a tree as lovely as an oak barrel.
Let's since we have kind of been going around the edge of this, why don't we introduce ourselves?
We never introduced ourselves today.
Like what? Well, like let's give our gentle listeners
Gentile?
a brief who we are spiel, and it'll be like at a work meeting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had to bring that up.
Okay. Well, I guess we should. It's only fair. Well, who are you?
So I'm John, and
Hi, John.
I think you all know who I am, but
Oh,
I'll give you the quick introduction. So,
but not everyone. You're assuming that the 3 listeners we have that we know.
that's always going to be like that. Yeah.
We may get someone that doesn't know us.
I live in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota. I, like Phil here, grew up there. I went to the University of Wyoming, studied music. I do a lot of music, although it's not my day job. Just probably more info than anybody wanted to hear. But Phil and I have been friends since our... Is it sophomore year of high school? Is that about right?
Is that like the penultimate year of high school?
No, that was... So
How does it work?
We met on an all-state chorus and orchestra trip.
Oh, that's where we met. Right.
That's how I remember it. It's been a few years, but
No, that was a fun trip. But see, I was in choir though.
you're in choir. I was in orchestra.
You played bass and I sang bass.
Phil sang bass. Yeah, so we met on that trip. Would that have been 84? Does that sound about right? 85?
Oh God, I don't remember years.
Okay.
I remember that this happening. We were
Tells
at
you
like
how
a
old we are, so.
we were at a Ramada Inn or something, right? In what
okay,
city
do you
though?
remember do you remember the town in South Dakota where we traveled to for that all-state?
Was that Aberdeen?
Named for Aberdeen, Scotland, the hometown of Milwaukee Railroad President Alexander Mitchell, this new city, incorporated in 1881, quickly became known as the hub city of the Dakotas and a Brown County seat.
Okay, if that's Aberdeen, that I'm almost positive is first year, our sophomore year.
Okay.
Because
let's
at
say
that time, high school started in 10th grade and not 9th grade like it does now.
Well, they keep changing things. Pretty soon high school is going to start in 8th grade.
That's nuts. College will start in 10th grade.
Let's just not have middle school.
No.
Well, some kids take college credits in high school.
So
anyway,
so we met there,
yeah.
and we've known each other ever since. Phil, what do you have? What's your...
Well, I just remember I think it was the Ramada Inn, right? Anyway,
I didn't remember that, but I believe you.
The pool was half inside and outside, and it had a sauna, one of those
Because they always had saunas.
little tiny wood cedar, I'm guessing.
This wood box that you got
Made out of imported European reclaimed oak barrels.
with this little shelf with hot rocks.
And you weren't supposed to throw the water on it, but you did anyway to try to get it to steam. And somehow you didn't get electrocuted. But so what we were doing was I think Mike Dorland was there too, wasn't he? He's one of our listeners.
He is a listener. Hi, Mike. Was
Shout
Mike
out.
on that trip?
I'm going to say was. I associate him with this.
You
but,
would have remembered because he was in choir.
Right. He did not sing bass. He sang alto. No, I'm just kidding. But so we jump in the pool and swim outside, and it was winter. And winter in South Dakota.
This
in
was
Eastern,
All-State Orchestra Chorus at that time was in like mid-November or something like that. And now I happen to know that they do it in October, so it's not as cold.
What a bunch of wimps.
Yeah. Anyway, so the pool that was a great thing. It had this big glass garage door that was
right.
and you'd swim under it and bash your head on it.
Well, you could if you weren't careful or drunk, but we weren't then. We didn't drink that. I didn't. Did you?
Nah, not.
No.
Actually, Phil would wander the hallways and steal little bottles of scope from the maids' cars. Then he gargled way too frequently.
So anyway, it's not good to drink and swim, kids. But evidently now you can eat and swim. But whatever. So you jump in the pool, swim under that, go outside. It was really cold because South Dakota can get cold. It says south, but that's misleading. It's southern kind of politically, but let's not get into that. But anyway, so and then we'd run inside and get in the sauna and get really hot. And we'd get red, like only Scandinavians can. I don't know if you're Scandinavian, but we got red.
Enough.
Mike,
Swedish.
I think Mike got kind of orange. But anyway, so then we'd go jump in the pool again. It was we figured out this thing. It's like it was so invigorating because we weren't drinking, so we had to find other ways to get high. So I'm guessing because we didn't huff paint or sniff glue or anything. We were so naive back then.
Oh,
so you jump in that cold water after being in that really
so it was
freaking hot
like
sauna.
we were doing the polar plunge before we knew what that was.
Right, and we didn't even do it for charity.
What were we thinking?
Well, okay. So anyway, boy, that was
That was a time. I do remember that.
That story. Anyway, that's how we met and bonded, as only men can do in the hot and cold, extreme conditions of survival instincts that send and endorphins, and that's what men need to do.
And on one of these trips where all state chorus and orchestra, which is kind of, I don't know, not satisfying for anybody, but where they get this giant chorus for people from all over the state, and you go in a gym.
Yeah.
You sit in the bleachers and
we sang our hearts out.
You sing with 1,000 other kids or whatever it was.
And then there's an orchestra.
And then an orchestra is down on the floor and nobody can hear them, and they play for 10 minutes and then they kind of get drowned out. So
by the choir? I don't remember that.
Yeah, no. The orchestra was always kind of, they didn't. There wasn't enough time for them to really do a lot of great music.
See, because I was in choir, so I have this memory of it being more balanced. But
yeah, no, the way I remember is the choir is the main attraction. The orchestra is kind of, well, we can do this one big thing at the end, patriotic singing. It's so that you guys have a giant gong to hit at the end of the music. It
wasn't a water gong though. Do you remember? I think we all got an LP of it, didn't we?
Yeah, they used to do LPs. But you will have to order them.
I think I have the LP of that still.
I don't think I ever bought it, but well, maybe I did actually. I don't know. I've got some other ones.
Your parents bought it for you.
They bought them. I've got a few.
You bought it?
No, I didn't have any money.
I had a paper route.
I didn't when I was in high school. I don't think I did, but middle school.
Did you have a paper route?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I see now. I've known John for 130 years, and I just learned something tonight. He had a paper route.
I had a brief career as a paper boy.
Remember that video game?
Oh, we're so focused.
I know. This is never going to be focused if I'm involved.
No. So the LP thing, which is great. This is past ass kissing at its finest. So there was this couple.
We've lost
called the Oplands.
Start over. There's a couple. Were they swingers?
Only with each other.
At the playground.
Yeah, on the swing set. I don't think this is safe.
Well, it could be, but you have to wrap yourself in saran wrap. We think we're funny, but I don't know. Fine. What were you going to say? The swinger couple did LPs?
The swinger couple. They had a van.
Was it a 70s van? Did it have carpet?
It was one of those tiny vans.
Did it have carpet? Wall to wall?
But the van was full of recording equipment.
A little van.
Yeah, you remember what vans used to look like in the 60s? They were really small, and you'd sit in the driver's seat, and you were like right up against the windshield. There was no hood. That if you hit something, you'd just die instantly.
Well, but maybe that's better.
Kind of like a Volkswagen bus. Kind of like that, except this was not a Volkswagen bus.
We did all kinds of family trips in a van, but it wasn't little.
You had a more conventional, probably a 70s, like a Ford van.
So this was 60s? So in the 60s, the vans were smaller.
They were smaller, yeah. They were like little cargo vans. They were
really
much more like a Volkswagen bus.
So anyway, they had this little 60s van filled with recording equipment.
Yeah.
And they recorded an entire choir and orchestra?
Yeah, and they would park it.
What?
Sometimes they drive it right into the arena there and put it kind of backstage. And then they'd run the microphone cables and everything out and put all the mics up, and they'd record everything, take everything down, and drive home.
Memory is such an interesting thing because I don't remember that at all. And we were at the same...
But I was into that stuff.
Well, right. But that's what I'm saying is we all remember...
Well, that and my dad
different things.
Knew the guy, too.
Well, your dad. He knew everybody that had a van back then.
Yeah, well, we had a van. We had several.
But not a little one.
No, we had full-size ones.
Wow. Thank goodness.
Yeah, we were much safer.
They didn't call them minivans, though, back then. That was more of a...
They only had vans.
90s thing was vans.
80s.
Fine.
That's when the first minivans came out.
We had... Again, I'm not good
Actually,
with years.
it was the 1984 Chrysler.
I like the LeBaron. Fine Corinthian leather. No,
yeah.
our van, the family trips, my dad he would drive us everywhere. Mm-hmm. And every Sunday we'd drive somewhere and we'd all get in the van.
It's pretty much what you do now though, right?
Well, not
Except
as
you don't
often.
have a van.
Not as we don't this was every Sunday we'd drive somewhere. No, I like to do that still. The kids not so much. Cuz there's no Wi-Fi in the van. But
Did you know you can buy cars that have Wi-Fi on them built in?
Oh, see, okay. Don't tell my kids that.
Yeah.
But if we got bored on a road trip, we had paper we'd have to draw, or we had Etch-a-Sketch. But back then you didn't have to wear a seatbelt, so it wasn't... My dad put a mattress in the back, and we'd take a nap back there when we were little kids driving around. The Black Hills, of course, are...
The Black Hills of Dakota.
My dad would take us to he'd find these old roads, mining roads.
That's cool.
Logging rows.
Cinnamon rolls.
I love cinnamon rolls.
This is the end of Episode 1, Side A. After the song, flip the record over to hear Side B.
And here's the song!
Wrong! Follow the link in the description of this podcast episode, and you will be transported magically to the song. It's like a scavenger hunt.